It is the project that I have wanted to do for a while. And today we are finally going to tap in to what if The Lord of the Rings came to Epic Universe. So I know this is something that a lot of people have talked about in the years past, and it's been a rumor since probably around 2010. Is The Lord of the Rings going to get a theme park or a theme park land? And who would it go to? Would it be Universal? Would it be Disney? Would it be someone else? Well, I know it's kind of a dormant thing going on right now, and it hasn't really been talked about. But a huge discussion has been going on that this may just be an expansion for Epic Universe whenever they decide to do an expansion. So I thought to myself, what could we do to talk about The Lord of the Rings coming to Epic Universe? I have a few thoughts, and I think I'm going to break these down by sections. So let's start off. First of all, let's talk about the rights issues. So back in February of 2022, the Embracer Group actually purchased the rights for Lord of the Rings for $396 million. Now this entails different things as movie rights, merchandise, and theme park rights. What is actually interesting about this is that they settled a deal with Warner Brothers to share the movie rights with them. So they renewed the movie rights with Warner Brothers. Ever since then, there has been a huge talk online about what is next for The Lord of the Rings, new movies, new TV shows, all this kind of stuff. Recently, last year, Amazon released a brand new show, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which has nothing to do with Warner Brothers or anything. So let's talk about this first, that we're going to ignore what is going on with Rings of Power. Let's just exclude that first of all, because that has nothing to do with the Embracer rights and everything. That only has to do with TV rights that they settled with the Tolkien estate, which is J.R.R. Tolkien, who is the original author of the books. And so their family has agreed to certain rights, and Embracer picked up those rights to be able to do things, like I said, with toys, merchandise, video games, and theme parks, and of course, movies. So now that we have that out of the way, here is another possibility of why I think Epic Universe may be able to obtain Lord of the Rings and why it may go here. First of all, let's talk about this. Warner Brothers has been positioning itself to be sold. Ever since David Zaslav took over the company a couple of years ago, he has positioned the company in a certain way to look presentable to everyone else after the merger with Discovery. This being said, who is the biggest bidder out there? Now, you look at it and you think, maybe Disney could do it, but if Disney does it, it's going to be a lot of backlash because of everything that's going on with how they purchase Fox and so on. So that's kind of out of the question. Universal is in a place where they beat Disney out last year for the most ticket sales, which is amazing. And Universal is in a really interesting spot here because also, in addition to that, Warner Brothers is looking to merge with Paramount, which additionally, some of Paramount's programs are already at the park. SpongeBob SquarePants, Dora the Explorer, all of those are already in the parks. Also, Transformers. So it would make sense for Universal to say, you know what? I'm going to purchase all of this, and I'm going to own it all. And with that purchase would come the film rights to The Lord of the Rings. Now, this is getting into legal mumbo jumbo and all that stuff, so we're not going to get into all that and all the fine details. This is just to hit the big points here of why I think Universal could do an amazing job with Epic Universe and have Lord of the Rings be a part of the expansion of Epic Universe. Now, there are some rumors circulating online saying that they saw original plans for certain rides, and we may cover that when we get to the ride section. But what we know so far is Universal's been really quiet about what an expansion might be. The Embracer Group has been really quiet of what they might do with the theme park rights. I would think it would be a tragedy, no offense, but I would think it would be a tragedy for someone like Six Flags to get the Lord of the Rings rights.
Does he offer a sense of...
Wouldn't make much sense to me to have a wild coaster for Lord of the Rings where Universal could use it in a much different capacity as they did the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which opened in 2010, which is an amazing thing. If you go to Universal and you check out either Hogsmeade or Diagon Alley, it is one of the best immersive experiences you will ever experience ever at a theme park. The way it's done, the things that are sold, the way that they interact with you, and for the fact of they don't sell stuff like butterbeer outside of that area. You have to only get it in that area. Which leads me to my point why Lord of the Rings would be so amazing. It's such an exclusive land that is going to help Epic Universe just dominate, and of course Universal dominate. It's one extra thing to push them to winning that war we talked about in the last video. Now you're asking me, John, what kind of lands would we see in this Lord of the Rings land if they were to do it? Let's take a look at the Universal Epic Universe map here and take a look at what we've got. Because if you take a look at this actual diagram, this actually shows you what the acreage could be for this spot. And it looks like it's an expansion pad of 20.5 acres that they could use. Now there is a smaller lot down at the bottom left, which is only 7 acres, which is kind of would be disappointing. But overall, you would need a large area. So what do you do? Well, I have some thoughts. First of all, let's start with the most famous Lord of the Rings location, the Shire. Of course, this has been rumored. People have talked about this, having Bilbo's home at Bag End, where you can walk into the Hobbit hole, you can have an immersive experience and seeing everything that they have there. But what else could you do? The Shire sounds really good to me, though. I believe that is a really good start. As you would enter the land, there's the Shire. And that's kind of how you approach the movie. You walk through the Shire. That's the first thing you do in the film, is the Shire. The second thing that I would do, most importantly, is have a Rivendell realm, which is the realm of the elves, and Elrond, you guys may recognize him from the films, and Arwen, and the Council of Elrond, all the good stuff there. They have so much potential because it would be beautiful, and they can make it look like a fall setting, kind of like it is in the films. It's a hidden valley, which would be another neat idea, that they could actually make it kind of like a hidden way to get through, almost like Diagon Alley. But it is just an amazing idea of what could come and what could be there. You could do a lot. We're going to get into more details of what's the little things that they could do. But if you had Rivendell, it's in a beautiful area. You could have waterfalls. You could have all kinds of beautiful structures and statues, just artistry all across this land. And who wouldn't want that amazing, amazing feeling of being an elf and walking around? And we'll get more to that in just a minute. But the third land that I think that they should do, the one I consider the most, would be Mordor. Now, Mordor is the dark land where Sauron, the Dark Lord, resides. Sauron is the villain of the Lord of the Rings. He is the Lord of the Rings. And of course, you would have to have the villain side of this, because why not? Now, there are different things that we can talk about, as you can have little mini areas in between that. You could have a Moria section, which we'll get to in a minute, which is like their underground area in Middle Earth. And then you could also do some things like maybe a small section of river, so you might be able to have a barrel ride, maybe, possibly. It's just a lot of different ideas that are coming to head. So now that we've established what I think the lands that they should do, let's talk a little bit deeper about what else they should do and what they can expand. So it's going to get really nerdy. So I hope you guys are ready for the nerd, because it's coming. Also within these lands, you could have different character meet and greets for each land. For example, the Shire, you could have Gandalf show up and walk around like he's talking to you as your hobbits or something like that. And then in Rivendell, you could have Elrond, you could have Galadriel show up and talk to you, or just elves in general, like nice meet and greets, which would be amazing. But I think the best part of it all would be for Mordor to have a Sauron meet and greet and a Witch King meet and greet, which would be one of the most amazing things ever because the Witch King is personally my favorite character. So overall, I think they could do something really cool with this and also establish something different from the Wizarding World, because there's not really any meet and greets in the Wizarding World. And they could do something very unique. Also, just throwing this out there, they could do an animatronic Gollum just like they do Donkey. That would be very interesting to see somebody voice that and to insult you and talk to you or whatever. That could be really cool. Something really interesting. But another thought that I had is walking around the Mordor section, or the Bree section that we were talking about, is the fact that you could have the riders, the Black Riders, walking around the land and kind of like the Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren in Galaxy's Edge. It'd be very unique and very different and a really cool experience. I would definitely love to see that. So let's talk about the next thing, all the rides that could come to Epic Universe. So we know, as a big Lord of the Rings fan, and if you are not familiar with it, you definitely should go watch it because it's worth a watch. It is amazing. It won the most Academy Awards ever, shared by Ben-Hur and Titanic, at the Oscars for the Return of the King film, which is my favorite movie of all time. But not talking from a biased standpoint, because I believe that that is the best film of all time, I think the other thing that they could do is just some amazing rides that they would incorporate into everything. So let's talk about the first one, which is a rumored ride that they were talking about before, would be Moria. Now, Moria is underground, and it's an area where they have to travel for several days to get to the other side. And in the course of that, they run into some orcs, and they run into the world-famous Balrog, which I have right here. He stays right by my nightstand every night. The Balrog is a feared opponent. If you try to kill this thing, it's going to kill you. And the only way that you can kill it is by dying yourself. So what other way could you promote that other than having Lord of the Rings and the Balrog there for you? So I would think if you have an escape from Moria with the Balrog chasing you, with orcs chasing you, and have it be more of an attraction, kind of like the Escape from Gringotts, you could kind of copy it and just say Escape from Moria. Maybe have the vehicles be a little less roller coastery and more like something like Rise of the Resistance, how it's just kind of moving on a trackless track. So I think that would be a really cool idea, and then you could see Gandalf fall and all that kind of stuff, which has been rumored to happen anyway. I think that's an amazing idea. Also, another idea that I have is a dark ride, which would be about the Nazgul or the Black Riders chasing you to the city of Bree. But you could do that. A ride showing the Black Riders following you, running after you, chasing you. It might be very similar to the Escape from Moria, but this one would be just different. I believe you could call this ride the Black Riders, or you could actually call it Buckleberry Ferry, because that's where they're trying to get to. But something very similar to that, where the Black Riders are chasing after you, I think would be an amazing experience. It would be fearful. It would definitely give you that hype and that feeling of, oh crap, we got to get away. And let's not forget about the boat ride, which would be kind of a barrel ride. In The Hobbit, there is a scene where the dwarves and Bilbo all try to escape from the elves, and they ride on actual barrels. Now, how can you pull this off? You can do it very similarly to Popeye's ride in Islands of Adventure, or you could just kind of change it up a little bit and make it a little more fun and individual. But I think that would be an amazing experience as well. So there's 3 attractions right there that are sure to be successes, and people want to ride them because they would be thrill rides. They would have a lot of fun. And I just think that there's so much they could do. I mean, I'll let them cook and let them figure out what they want to do. But I know that these 3 attractions would do well, and people would line up for hours to wait for them. Now, let's talk about the food. So it is well known that the Lord of the Rings is known for its food. There's plenty of food that Tolkien even describes in the books that are just kind of like just delicious foods, like tables full of food. But there are also some things that are just kind of staples First of all is limbus bread, and limbus bread is actually a piece of bread that you would eat from the elves. One small bite fills the stomach of a grown man. Of course, the hobbits eat about 3 or 4 of them, but you could make this a pastry that is just kind of a flat pastry, almost like a pita, and kind of a sweet pita, something like that, that you just bite. It's very filling, and it's just a dessert you can walk around, or a snack you can walk around. Instead of having pretzels and hot dogs, you could have limbus bread. You could do stuff that was very similar to what they had and just make like little cakes. And then, of course, we're talking about food. You would have to have the Green Dragon Inn, which is the famous pub in the Shire that Frodo and all the hobbits go to when they want to drink. So you'd have that to go, and then you would have the Prancing Pony, which is another pub that you could go in, and you would offer like pub food, like charcuterie boards, stuff like that, like stuff that's, cheese and wine, all that kind of stuff. Crazy stuff that you could have in there. You can offer the best food of any theme park, the best spread ever, because that is what Lord of the Rings is known for, is the food. At least in the books. The way he describes the food, the way that the dwarves eat all of Bilbo's food and the Hobbit and everything, it's just an amazing thing. It would be really cool to see all that. I think it would be so much fun. Now, similar to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, of course, you would have to have merchandise. And in the Wizarding World, we know we have the robes from Harry Potter, we have the wands, we have butterbeer, we have all kinds of merchandise, backpacks for all of the houses, everything that is just house related. It's so much, and it's just so vast, and so much that they have. So you could have the green cloaks that are given to the hobbits and the Fellowship during the Fellowship of the Ring. And it has a little brooch here, and you could charge the same price as you would the robes at Harry Potter. But the difference would be is that this would be distinct because they're green and they're part of the Fellowship. They're part of being an elf. And that could be the exclusive thing of walking around there, would be just that you get to wear the cloak. Now, what's special about these cloaks in the films is it actually guards you from evil. Not that you could figure that out in real life, but it would be cool. Of course, they're not going to do that. That's just me being really nerdy and talking about that. But they could also offer the Phial of Galadriel, which is something that's prominently used in the film. Frodo uses it. Sam uses it. It's a huge thing. Big deal in the book. And it is kind of a big deal in the movies as well. I know it's something that's close to my heart and that I love. And you could also offer special Funko Pops like this one, or special plushies like this one, or a Gandalf or a Smeagol, a Gollum kind of thing. Who wouldn't want that? That would be awesome. You could sell their swords very similarly to what they do at Disney's Hollywood Studios and Disneyland with lightsabers, but you could sell Frodo's sword, Aragorn's sword, Galadriel's sword. Well, that's from Rings of Power. But Gandalf's sword, Sauron's mace. You could sell all this kind of stuff, and it would sell. You could do it. You could do the kiddie version. You could do the realistic version. You could do all these things, and it would really pay off. And I think that they could really make some money here, and it would just be an immersive, great experience. And also, I wanted to add to that, just while I'm thinking about it, that a really good thing to do would be to add the Lord of the Rings music playing throughout the land the whole time, because that would definitely give you that feeling. You don't just need some basic music. You need the actual Lord of the Rings music playing from Howard Shore, playing in the land while you're walking around, because that would just be an amazing thing. There's so many ideas for merch that they could do, and one of the things that I think that they could do, which would be really cool, I'm pulling from Dollywood here. They could have an actual place where you forge a ring. Not like this one, because this one's my silicone wedding band, but you could forge a ring and have it inscripted in the way you want it. You could get the One Ring, you could get Galadriel's ring, Aragorn's ring, whomever's, and kind of design your own ring, which would be a fun experience. It would be different from building your lightsaber, it would be different from building your droid, and it would be just something completely different to make it feel like you are back in those days. Well, fictional days, right? Like the old blacksmithing days and stuff like that. Like, it would just give you this overall experience and feeling. And I feel like Lord of the Rings is that. There's love, there's comfort, there's food, there's everything that Lord of the Rings is. Lord of the Rings is not just a movie. It's an experience. It is a franchise that, if treated correctly, could be something for years to come that would change everything in the theme parks, because it would set the bar as it has with the films. It's definitely set the bar with films. There are no fantasy films or TV shows, to me, that will ever touch The Lord of the Rings. Despite how you feel about others, they won't ever touch it. And I feel like if they bring it, they can bring a connection to families, to people, and give that experience, that comfort and that love that Lord of the Rings brings. Because it's an amazing property. It's an amazing thing that a man wrote over almost 70 years ago now. And it's something that could be a really great experience for Universal. They would make so much money off of this. It would be just insane. But let me know down in the comments what you would like to see for merchandise, for food, different things like this. What I just gave you today was just kind of some ideas I just spitballed. I didn't even write it all down. I wrote my points down, but I just kind of just spitball while I'm talking. So let me know what you think down in the comments, what you would like to see, if you would like to see a Lord of the Rings theme park, if you would like to see all the different merchandise or the different rides, or if you're on the other side and you're like, please do not touch Lord of the Rings. To me, I'm a huge advocate for it. I love Lord of the Rings. I am a gatekeeper of Lord of the Rings, but I am open to this because I think it would just be an amazing thing. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, hit that like button and the notification bell so you know when our next video is coming out. Check out this video right here because we talk about Epic Universe and all the construction updates going on there, and you're definitely going to want to check that out because it's got some really good information in it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time, and remember, the road goes ever on. Now you know where I got that from.